Lead is a soft, heavy metal with the atomic number of 82. It's also known by the abbreviation Pb, which comes from Latin plumbum. Now, the Romans made extensive use of lead, especially in water pipes. That's why we now use the word plumber in connection with water pipes. However, even ancient Romans like Vitruvius noted over 2,000 years ago that water conducted through earthen pipes is more wholesome than those conducted through lead. Other ancient writers also expressed similar issues with lead pipes, or alternatively a preference for clay pipes. So what actually is the problem with lead? Well, exposure to high levels of lead can easily result in lead poisoning, resulting in the symptoms of abdominal pain, constipation, muscle weakness, tingling in the extremities, and pale skin coloration. However, the most profound effects were occurring in the nervous system and the brain, especially if that brain is still developing like a child or a very young adult. Now, lead is a heavy metal and actually has no biological function inside the human body, but reacts in a similar way to calcium, and therefore can be moved about the body in the same way as calcium. This includes in brain cells and the nerve cells. It can displace the calcium acquired by the cells, leading to possible cell damage and possibly even cell death. However, calcium is also required in neurotransmitters carrying impulses from one cell to the other. If lead gets into this process, it can cause the neurotransmitters to fire at the wrong time, making thoughts and memories less accurate and also less effective. Lead use, however, continued long after the Romans, as well as water pipes. It was used in makeup, roofing, shielding for nuclear reactors, and fairly widely in paint. As this combination of shielding for radiation and use in old paintings enables X-rays to be taken of old paintings to discover hidden artworks concealed under layers of paint. However, during the production of lead, again it was noticed that those heavily involved in its use or production started to suffer significant effects of lead poisoning. It's even probable that many of the mad artists are likely to have suffered from lead poisoning. As new industrial chemicals and processes came along, lead was dropped from many of its former uses and replaced with chemicals that were thought far safer than lead. There was one major exception to this, and that was the use of tetraethyl lead. This was a form of lead that was added to petrol engines to prevent something known as knocking, which was a serious engine problem at the time. Authorities were assured by the oil companies that adding the tetraethyl lead to petrol made it safe. It was the best method for preventing knocking. There were other alternatives to using this fuel, but they couldn't actually be patented, and therefore could be used by anyone to create an anti-knocking fuel. As time went on, some people questioned the use of lead in fuel. So studies were conducted into safety implications, but unfortunately these studies were controlled and conducted by the very oil company that was making the money from the use of lead. They never seemed to find anything harmful in use of lead in fuel. However, eventually independent studies were done, and lead was deemed to be highly hazardous, removed from fuel and nearly all other uses. This removal of lead occurred at different times, both in different countries and even different regions within a single country. As this reduction in environmental lead occurred, there has been corresponding rise in educational achievement in young people. However, there's been an even more significant change in criminal activity, with falling crime rates corresponding directly with the timing reductions in environmental lead. Those countries or regions that were slowest to respond to the problem of lead had delayed falling crime, whereas those who were quickest off the mark saw the earliest reduction in crime rate. With lead being able to influence the brain and the brain function, it's fairly easy to see how high levels of environmental lead were likely to influence crime levels.